Okay, hi Pascal.
Hi,
Lovely to
Alison.
lovely to see you again.
Yeah, lovely to see you too.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how has your week been so far?
It's been good. It's been
Yeah.
good. Yeah. It's nice that we got the sunshine out. Makes a big difference.
Oh, we've had storms here in Melbourne. Huge
Oh, have you?
storms, floods, trees down. Yeah.
Oh,
My daughter was without power for days. Yeah. So
got
big things
it.
happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, the good things happening.
So I know last week we talked about what did we talk about? Time to wake up. I called our session last week.
Yeah, I saw
And
the title that you gave it. Yes, it
or
was
time to
that.
awaken. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there are huge shifts happening on the planet, as we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
so often. And I think one of those shifts and one of the things that came up for me through the week was that the paradigm shift between separation and connection, and the
Mm-hmm.
idea that we are, when we can get our head around the idea that we are all connected, and that there are so many connections within the universe and the world, and ecosystems, and that we are all part of this whole unity. That once we really understand that, get our heads around that, then there will be a ripple effect through the way people live their lives and the way we just relate to each other and relate to the world around us.
Yeah,
When we
I
start
would
to
totally
realize,
agree.
yeah, how dependent we are on each other and the planet that supports us.
Yes, and we're all, I think the words that come to mind when you talk about this is that unified consciousness and being
Hmm.
unified, and also that we are all one is the whole
Absolutely.
point you're
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, but I think we can kind of talk about that on a more energetic, metaphysical level, but to really understand that on a physical, down-to-earth level, how connected we are,
Oh
um,
God,
and
yeah. And
and
what
how
I'm thinking,
dependent we are on everything around us.
absolutely. But I think when I'm talking about it or sensing into it with the way we're speaking about it, I'm seeing it on a very like, that there's a card in Osho that I like called into me I see, right? And
Hmm.
if you take the whole word, it's intimacy.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah.
into me I see, right? So the thing is that we're constantly dealing with that into me I see as a concept, right?
Mm.
And what you're talking about, it's the same thing when we're interacting with the world, right? So into me I see makes us also be present that whoever we're seeing is a mirror of ourselves.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
That's what you're talking about, really, is how I see that, right? But a lot of the time we don't want to identify with that. We want to
Mm.
see people as separate from ourselves, and
Mm.
i.e. they are who they are and we are who we are.
Mm.
And inside of that, it can be very safe. It's very exactly, the idea that we are into me I see is like, for some people, very confronting, because the idea is that somebody in front of you could be giving you the insight to yourself that you're not wanting to see, but maybe is a very important thing for you to see currently, right? So this part you're talking about is very vital, especially as the collective veil between our collective selves and our individual selves, in essence, is evaporating.
Mm. And the understanding that everything, as you saying, everything around us is a reflection of what's going on internally, and so
Mm.
it's very easy to kind of reject someone else and make judgments, and that really feeds our ego, that they're wrong, I'm right, or they're lesser than and I'm better than. But when we clear that veil and we see that we are all incredibly connected and they are an aspect of us, then we have to let go of that judgment or that superiority.
Yes, I totally agree. And part of the access point around that is a greater conscious self-awareness, self-reflective practice. So I think the thing that is very important right now is, you know, at these times is what you're bringing into conscious awareness as reflection daily to help support that, because, you know, no one's perfect, but how you exercise that and practice that daily, and to see people maybe as your, you know, your teacher.
Yes.
What am I learning from this? You know, what am I gaining from this? Right.
And what is it in me that attracted this into my experience?
Yeah, that could be also another question inside of it, right? And what do I have to gain from that part of me that allows me to gain higher wisdom inside of this, inside of me?
Or what needs, or what needs healing within me so that I can be accepting of that other person.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that too. That too. Correct. That's right. And so, you know, sometimes we also need access to those greater, wiser part of ourselves from different places, you know, from different moments. Sometimes when we're so close to something, we can't see it, right? So this is also like, what are the other ways that we're using to gain access to ourselves this way? And that's why I said a practice is very good for that. You know, it could be yoga, it could be meditation. You know, how do you daily go within around the things that are happening with you and that are coming up as these moments, you know, to remove those barriers and to be able to have a more reflective sense of what you would like to do around those things, you know, and to be able to see that it's safe to also to do that. I think it's also very critical. But it's not something you can just do once.
No, I think it's got to be an embodied practice. Yeah.
That's why I said that it's about an embodied practice, you know. And I'm not attached to necessarily saying yoga is the way, but yoga is a type of practice that enables you to look at life, you know. It's a living embodiment, yoga. And you get, you know, you have all of those downloads and moments where you're actually actively processing things. That's very important to enable what you're talking about, you know, and to get to a higher place within those things, you know, and move them in a different way to maybe how you intended to before, you know, apply that higher wisdom. That's what I'm saying. Music could also activate something around that as well. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what different kind of practice allows you to get in touch with those higher parts of yourself, so that you can see these things, you know, like you're saying, that we are part of the planet. It's not only just for people, it's also to do with, you know, the planet and animals and, you know, our whole ecology, you know, our whole atmosphere that we are part of, and that, you know, we're all one inside of. So how do we get that connection?
I think just that awareness that that we are all connected and we are so dependent on nature around us. That's
yes,
and that's so fun. Reconnecting with nature. Yeah. And it's so interesting that so many, you know, around the world, there's a new therapy, which is, you know, in Japan, they call it forest bathing.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, so a doctor will write a prescription for a certain amount of forest bathing every week. And it's just simply walking in a forest or being in a forest, reconnecting with nature. And apparently I don't know whether it's the UK or Ireland, they prescribe mountain walking or something, mountain hiking, as a treatment for depression, anxiety, for, you know, other chronic illnesses. And I think so many of the problems on our planet have come from our disconnection with nature. You know, if we really understood the importance of clean air, water, and healthy living soil, we would be doing things very, very differently.
Yes, I agree with you. And this point that you're bringing is a big one for me, because I think that, you know, one of the things I saw was that, like, we are intrinsically all natural. Okay, so even nature, part of being nature is to be natural. And so what I've experienced, which, you know, I thought was very interesting to me, because I lived in a very hectic, frenetic city. And I'm now living in
Hong Kong.
Yes, in Hong Kong, in a completely 360-degree, like, altered way of living. And when as you're saying, you know, look at that, it's part of, you know, you could say source, God, you know, realigning me with the importance of nature, and that I am nature in a whole different way. And that, and part of that regrounding, you know, so you can go out and walk around in parks and things like that in Hong Kong. It doesn't mean to say there aren't green areas, there are, but it's not, what I see is, it's not about that. It's about the ability to, you know, how much of the time are you outside? We didn't have a lot of time to be outside, being mindful and practicing that so much, because we're always on the go. We get little glimpses, but that rebalancing of that nature, just small things that have really altered, you know, like me having and wanting to eat as many meals as I can outside. Fundamentally shifted.
Yeah.
I don't desire to eat inside.
Picnic therapy.
Yes. I now walk barefoot.
Yes.
I do barefoot and grounding exercises, you know, completely, like, up and down the lawn, you know, get grounded, feel the earth, feel the grass.
Yeah.
I make conscious effort about it. Like, it's so different. It's like Mother Earth, you know, speaking to you and saying, you know, it's not an option to say, oh, okay, you're just gonna, you know, see me. But what I see is the difference that somehow nature has needing to be formed within me. It's like, I need to feel it. I need to touch it. I need to become one with it. Like when you're talking about, there was still a level of separation before, you know, that is coming into oneness with it in even, and it constantly evolves, you know.
One of the things that bothers me a bit is that people are really, they obviously want the greenery and the plant life around them, but the trend towards all of the plastic or artificial plants. And so you'll go into a cafe with a beautiful green wall and it's all plastic. And yeah, it's you know, people know what they need and what's missing, but they're going about it the wrong way and creating more plastic on the planet.
Right.
But we know, you know, just visually it's lovely, but it doesn't create the same energy and it doesn't give you the oxygen that you need, and it doesn't connect you to nature. It's just pretending.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So I think exactly. So I think this is the point that you're hitting at, that exactly that I'm reflecting on and seeing is that I can't say that I was living purely naturally before, because I wasn't. I was living naturally to the degree I could at the time. And clearly my spirit needs more. And so now I feel like it's realigning, you know, and also using aspects of nature differently. You know, we have lots of trees here, and actually we've built this whole area with a whole new fire pit, my dad and his friend, but using nature to build it. You know, the actual wood, not fake wood, the actual wood from the trees to build you know, side tables, to build chairs, to build a
Fantastic.
fire area outside where all of us can go and sit and play, contemplate, listen to our audios and our meditations. And that's been amazing to see, because actually Earth wants us to use, exactly what I'm saying, compost her, work with her, reunite with, which again removes those walls of separation between nature's like a picture versus, you know, engaging with nature and how she works through and in you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, and for us to all kind of reconnect personally on that level will ideally have that ripple effect out into the way we manage things in the world and the way governments work. I was watching a documentary last night on the Dead Sea, and the fact that that is it's it's ironic, but it's dying.
Right.
Because so much water has been taken from upstream that the waters of the Dead Sea are receding, and there's sinkholes appearing in areas, so that it's quite dangerous to go close to the Dead Sea, which has always been such a healing place for people. So yeah, really tragic that we've felt in so many ways that we can just keep using nature, and that there will be no repercussions.
Yes.
My husband came to Australia, let me see, when he was 21, and a long time ago.
Long time ago, yeah.
And he came by cruise ship. And he said every night the rubbish would be thrown overboard. That was the way they disposed of their rubbish. They thought the sea could absorb anything that, you know, would come from a cruise ship.
Right.
And it was that's just been the mentality that the earth can cope with whatever we dish out, whatever we do to her, she will cope with. And I find that, yeah, that is what needs to change, so that we understand and start to honour Mother Earth and all of the way she nourishes and supports us and provides the oxygen and the water and, you know, the food that we need. Rather than just using and abusing her.
You're right. And I think that's why this COVID time has happened, to be able to take, you see, that's my point, to be able to take time. And it's forced, it depends where you are, but a lot of people to go out in nature to see these things for the first time, for many, okay? And so I think until you get intimate, this is the other thing. I think a lot of these conversations have gone over people's heads is because it's not been intimate enough for them to care. It's not been intimate enough to feel that, you know, the bird inside the garden and what's happening to the bird. Well, unless you have a direct experience with it, it's not meaningful to you. And therefore you can hear about all these different topics about how Mother Earth is suffering and going through that. But if you're separate from it and it's not something personal to you, i.e. you're distant or walled off from it, then you're not going to do anything differently about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why there's been an invitation inside of this, because a lot of people have been given that opportunity to revisit Mother Earth and nature, and to see what it has always been giving us, but that we either taken for granted or failed to see, or think that, like you said, it's permanent. I think this is the other thing for me. Nature has presented, when you're even talking about your husband in the boat example, is that it's limitless and that it's permanent, but it isn't. If we don't take care of it and we don't look after it, it will cease to exist. I mean, it
cease to stop supporting us.
Right. Correct. Right. So that's the part where also having that experience again versus a concept or hearing about these different things from various people, until you have a direct experience, a direct, intimate, you know, coming back to your, you know, what nature is for you, you're not going to do things differently, because it it doesn't impact you what's going on. So I think this time has been for that, it's been that reconnection. And like you said, to see that things are not exhaustible.
And we live on a finite planet.
Right, correct. This is the whole thing. And that it's not permanent. I mean, unless we do something about it. And that whole sense, I guess, and that's what I see. Mother Earth and our intimate connection with ourselves is she's also got that rhythm. She's that rhythm of getting us to kind of tone down, get centered. She's doing all of that, both inside and during this whole COVID time, I feel, because she's saying, without us, you won't see all these things. You wouldn't take stock. You wouldn't reflect. You wouldn't see how the inside is connected to the outside. All of these things wouldn't happen because you'd be constantly in that masculine mode of push, make.
Yeah, and that's separation mentality, right? That we are all separate. We're separate from the earth. We're separate from each other. But we're not. We are incredibly interconnected. And so a couple of things that kind of came into my awareness this week was that they have now mapped the dark energy in the universe, which may seem totally unrelated, but they can't see it directly. It's only an indirect kind of map of what that dark energy is. But it's been quite contentious up until now, whether it actually exists. But the dark energy is what fills all the space in the universe. We think that the universe is empty space and a vacuum, but it's not. It's actually full of energy, and we are living in this cosmic soup that connects us all. So it's like, we're all ice blocks floating in a sea of water, but the water's connecting everything. And it's, what an ice block is exactly the same as what water is.
Right.
So it's, that's that same energy through everything. That's really important to keep in mind. And it's, it's one of the things in my marketing material, actually, that I say that I'm always conscious of that energetic field that connects us all. And, a number of experiences I've had along the way or things I've read and seen and heard that have kind of kept me aware of that, I guess, that we are all connected, and it's, it's that energetic connection between us that means we can be telepathic or psychic and, really tune in to what's going on with another person.
Yes, and that's so funny you talk about that, because I can see the dots lining up. Like, the more I'm in nature, the more I'm outside, the more I'm natural, the more that I'm bringing myself to my essence, the more what you're calling your extrasensory acuity and powers that you're talking about become amplified. The more I'm connected to Mother Earth, they're all swirling in connection together, And so that is the irony, because on one hand, people feel like, oh, we're really cut off because we can't connect with certain people because of COVID and this dynamic. Yeah. And there's some truth to that in one way. And yet, if you really connect in with those extrasensory powers and those other parts, why is it that if you tune into that, you can really connect into someone's energy? Another way I would say, and I do think it's important to say, is if you're not sure and why do we have that sense that we can be connected to other people? Is because we tune into them. We can tune into them. We can tune into them. We can feel into the energy field of you and that other person. And we can send it love and light. We can send it blessing. Yeah. We can send it whatever we feel that we want to send it, from that telepathic space you're talking about.
And there's a lot of research that validates that.
It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. I think the times that in the past we've talked about it is like, you have a thought or you sneeze and, maybe someone's thinking about you, that kind of thing. What I say, the field is like so much wider right now. We can send each other things that we want to send. and it's like, we might get a shudder, like someone's just thought about us. We can
Yeah.
send a blessing that way inside the field to somebody, you know? So, and I think, again, that creates connection, you know, where you think you're disconnected. How can you realize that we are connected, and tap into those abilities to connect and feel love, or love, where, you know, where we think that there's only a certain way to communicate, only get to each other.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very well accepted in my family now. My husband and I, we will just read each other's minds easily. You know, he'll have a thought and I will say it out loud.
Lovely. That's great.
It's been funny lately, we've been watching TV and he'll tell me what the next line in the scene is, something we've never ever seen before, and he'll say, this is what they're going to say, and it's spot on.
Well, great. See, that's like you and your husband having a telepathic game with the TV.
We do, absolutely. Yeah.
That's quite cool. That's quite nice to hear.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so just wanted to talk through that, because I know once I start talking to you, so many things pop up around that. But yeah, definitely that paradigm shift to understand that, you know, we are connected to the homeless people. We're connected to people who, you know, they may be pedophiles or whatever it is. Every single person on the planet we have some connection with, and we can heal what's going on in the world by healing things within ourselves. So one of the other things that I came into my space, to use your words, this week was the Ho'oponopono technique, which is a Hawaiian technique of there's just 4 phrases that you say to basically heal a situation or heal a relationship. And I cannot tell you the name of the man who first did it, but I think it was in Hawaii, and he was do you know the story?
I do, yeah.
He was a doctor in a psychiatric, maybe for the criminally insane. And he actually worked by just not even working with the people. He was a psychiatrist, I think, not even working with the people, but just working with their files. And he would read their file, read their story, notice the reactions in himself as he read them. So what was triggered in him, what his, you know, reaction, resistance, you know, he was appalled or disgusted because they were, you know, pretty heavy-duty criminals. And he worked with these 4 phrases, which are, I'm sorry, I thank you, I forgive you, and I love you. Repeating those over and over and over and over and over again. So healing his resistance to each one of these patients or inmates, and one by one, they got better. Their behaviour and their, you know, mental state improved significantly. Amazing story, and probably a bit too woo-woo for some people, but I found it fascinating, and he did write a book which I will need to read, I think, and I'll post that in the comments of what the book is.
Ho'oponopono, it's called.
Yes, yeah. Yes. And so in any situation, to say those 4 phrases, and I've done it. I've worked with groups and gone through that process, and got people to go through that process with their spouse, their children, their parents, just in their imagination, and say those things in their imagination to those people that they've had conflict with, and then hear them being said back. And incredibly powerful process, and lots of tears through that, but really, really healing. So, interesting one to practice with and have a little look at through the week, I think, for people.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder for people. It's also something I've used over the years. I found it very inspiring, and I think it's great that you're with people how he conceived the work and how he used it on himself with the patients that came through.
Yeah,
I think that
without seeing one patient face to face.
Correct. It's true. It's true. That's very, very valid. I think in addition, what I can also add to say, you know, if there's any areas or issues with people that show up in your space, you know, sending it love, sending it blessing is also very good. Also sending forgiveness, which is part of the Ho'oponopono thing, but sending forgiveness. And the other thing I love to do is also to imagine yourself and another person sending a rainbow bridge. So we send a rainbow bridge between yourself and the other person. You can do it with the words love and forgiveness as well at the same time, and blessing, and imagine yourself sending that situation through to the other person and yourself. I think the true test is when you're applying it to a situation where it might be something that you find very, very hard to forgive, or, you know, it's in a domain where it's, you know, might be more tricky to be able to allow yourself to see that dynamic and transfer happen. Really supports you to be able to heal it and to let go in situations where it's harder to, and bring that level of oneness to the space. But I think the other part that people forget is, instead of holding on to something that's, you know, got a charge in the space by, you know, especially when it's to do with karmic things, it's very important to bless it. Very important to bless it and keep blessing it. Because as you keep blessing it and sending it love and light, sending it forgiveness, sending a rainbow bridge, the energy shifts and the vibration on it shifts. So I think it's also very different when it's just a small thing you've had, but at this time, so many people are dealing with karmic entanglements. And so as you're dealing with those, again, I would apply a practice to it. Doesn't have to be long, could be 5 or 10 minutes in your day. But doing those things to apply that in areas where you're finding it more difficult or more challenging can really shift the vibration on it to allow it to move through you and move on from you, you know. So yeah, I'd add that piece, I think, to the space. Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I read a book by it's there somewhere.
I was going to say it's probably on your amazing book.
I do. Yeah, I'm an avid reader. The Happiest Man on Earth. A man who was in concentration camp, Jewish man who was in concentration camps throughout the war. He's just turned 100 actually. And he said that he has learned he can't forgive, but he has let go of the anger. And so that's kind of another layer of it, I think, that sometimes people do find it impossible to forgive because it feels like it's condoning what was done. But he said he's let go of the anger so that it's not toxic within him anymore.
I mean,
ideally you can get to the point where you can forgive and understand and see it from a higher perspective. But
I think the thing I add to that is that the part that sometimes gets left out of forgiveness is that you're not forgiving to forget. You're forgiving so that you can move on and let go for yourself. So the problem with forgiveness sometimes is that it sounds like it's for other people and you don't want to condone it, so you don't forgive. But part of the whole key part of it is you're forgiving so that you can move on and let go of it, so it doesn't have you anymore. But you don't forget. You don't forget. It's so that it doesn't have the charge over your life or, you know, the significance that it does anymore, so that you can move on. And I think in essence, it's there to give you some kind of peace. But of course, it's a process because, you know, everyone is learning inside of the degrees to which one is having to practice what I call forgiveness. Inside of some, you know, exactly, the true testament is when you can forgive inside of a situation that feels pretty unforgivable. You know, there are some situations where it looks like that, just like loving something when it looks pretty hard to love it. Same thing. Yeah. Where are you on that? This is the other part. Where are you on that dial in your life? Those are the true tests, right? Your love is deepening, the levels of your love, and where you're being tested in your love and where you're being tested in your forgiveness keeps amplifying. So as you go higher, you're going to get tested higher around those things, and like you're saying, you're talking about a guy in a concentration camp. Okay. Just like other forms of persecution or
cruelty.
Injustice, cruelty that are happening or have happened to people. It's a process. But what I would want to say to empower people so that they don't feel stuck inside of that is that the forgiveness is to allow you to be free and for it to not have hold on you, but you don't ever forget.
I often refer people to just a very short excerpt from an interview with Russell Brand and Brené Brown. And if you do a search, I can put a link in the discussion or in the comments description. That's but it is, it's, if you look for, are people really doing the best they can? So it's about compassion. And it was, and I've sent that to you. So it's about coming to the idea that people really are doing the best they can, no matter who they are, no matter where they're, a guard in a concentration camp or, whether they're the most compassionate person on the planet. They're doing the best they can according to their experience, their awareness, their conditioning, their whatever. Just that's where they are right now. That's the way they're behaving right now because that's the best they can do. And it can be a challenge to get your head around that. But doing that is part of compassion. So understanding that, yes, they're doing the best they can. But the other thing that Brené Brown talks about is for compassion to be sustainable so you don't burn out being compassionate is to have boundaries of steel. So to be able to say, okay, if that's the best you can do, well, I'm out of here. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Or if that's the best you can do, then I'm going to have to call the police and they're going to have to deal with you or whatever it might be. But not, so having that kindness and that compassion, and I understand you're doing the best you can, but these are my boundaries. These are my limits of what I will accept.
That's really lovely.
Because I have compassion for myself.
Yes, correct. That's right, because you have compassion for yourself, and because what I like about the part that you've zoomed in on, in essence, is the part that getting access to what is the best that you can give me also gives you access to know, okay, well, maybe I need more, which is the boundaries. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm worth more.
I'm worth more. And actually, that whole, I love that. I just love that quote by Maya Angelou. I'm a big Maya Angelou fan. That when people show you who they are, believe them. And that means in the best of ways and in the ill of ways. And and part of that is related to this. Like, you can accept and see how people are treating you. Then your choice, as you're saying with the boundaries, is to then get clear. Well, I need to now enforce these boundaries because that doesn't work for me, and apply it so that it works for you, and acknowledge that everybody. I think there's two parts. One is the Maya Angelou quote, and then the other part is also the people can only meet you as far as they've met themselves. And why that gives so much peace is because some of the times you wish, you wonder, you hope with the best will in the world that other people can meet you where you are. And the point is they are where they are on their journey.
That's right. They're doing the best they can.
Correct. That's why it's another version of that. And the thing is, sometimes wishing that they were somewhere that they're not creates a lot of pain. A lot of pain for you, and sometimes also a lot of pain for them. So that's why giving space and compassion with that phrase, for me, that's also a very compassionate expression, that people can only meet you as far as they've met themselves. Takes a lot of the pressure off the space and a lot of expectation out of the space, because then you're just seeing it for what it is instead of what you wish it to be, which doesn't give you any power inside of it anyway. So, and then you can apply compassion to yourself inside of that and them.
And so often relationships can go badly awry when one person is hoping to change the other. You know, someone might be behaving very badly, but if I stay around long enough and teach them how to be different, rescue them, help them, support them, then they will change. But not necessarily.
And the other part I see about it is that people are evolving how they evolve. And so the other thing is that sometimes when people evolve, sometimes we can evolve past each other, not intending to, but sometimes we evolve, right? And so sometimes with the best will in the world, we outgrow people, and it doesn't make them a bad person, and it doesn't make ourselves a bad person. Whoever's doing the outgrowing, we hope that we grow together. Of course we do. We hope that we do, right? But we can't know how that growing is going to go. Right. And so part of that is it's all of those different things we're talking about today, actually, applying compassion to that space, applying consciousness to that space, and allowing people, and also love to that space, because part of that is we're all going to evolve and grow as we grow, and it's all okay that we do that. Because it's part of our vision.
Yeah, and just like in nature, there are plants that flourish in certain environments. And
and some grow faster than others. And it's not because anyone is more superior or less than or any of that. It's just that the plant grows the way the plant grows, right? And so we're not here to stunt anybody's growth. We're here to allow it, to embellish it, to support it, and to do it with as much compassion and as much understanding as we can. But it's never, exactly, growth is sometimes messy, so and part of that is applying as much compassion and understanding in the space as we can. But also loving somebody also means just allowing things to expand as they expand. And this is what I mean by, sometimes we learn to love it by letting it grow. Letting it stand alone and find its own way in the world. That's why sometimes some of the most amazing writers talk about it, poets. It's funny how, mystics talk about that. Like sometimes, you go through lots of different journeys and experiences, and that's what I'm saying. You can love something by giving it growth. And giving it its space to be free and to have its own time and voice, and not hold on to it. So again, it's like these unbelievable nuances and growth aspects to how we love, how we connect, how we see the world, how we give people space. And sometimes we can love by being apart and not being together, and how to, so it's all these different things, and yet we're all intimately connected.
On that invisible level.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Lovely chatting with you, Pascale.
Lovely chatting with you. Love the topic. This was evoked by Alison today, so I'm really happy to see where this flowed today. It was awesome.
Yeah. And there's lots more we can talk about around all of that. So let's meet again next week.
All right. That's right. Next week we're on.
Okay. Same time, same place.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes.
And please, if you've got comments or questions, we would love to hear them. And if you've got an idea for a topic that we could talk about, that would be awesome. Okay.
And also want to just say, you just subscribe below and like it, join us. Yeah. That's the other thing I wanted to add.
And hit the little bell to get the notifications.
Fantastic.
Okay. Take care. Have a great week.
You too.